Right, back again. Been away for a while. I've had to take some time off. I've not been too good. Watched UFC 113. I will say that was probably that and the WEC show made up for the lackluster Strikeforce card and the UFC Anderson Silva card. Anyways, I'm going to get right into it. A lot happened on that night. It's quite a good night of fights and a lot of controversies, if you want to say. Um, Alan Belcher, Patrick Cote. Belcher looked good. Cote, I wasn't surprised he lost considering he'd been inactive for almost 2 years. Well, a year and a half, sorry, really. He had that knee injury after the Silver fight. So he kind of, I mean, he looked alright. Belcher's probably now put himself into contention. I don't know. Maybe he'll probably fight Vitor Belfort when Belfort returns from injury. I don't know how that's going to work out, but probably. Um, Kimbo Slice Mitrione was not a bad fight at all. Actually, it was pretty exciting. Um, Kimbo did some kind of slams and takedowns, but Mitrione, when he was back on the feet, those leg kicks were vicious. I think he really exploited that aspect of Kimbo's game, the leg kicks, because every time he hit one, they landed. And then he took Kimbo off his feet with a leg kick, and then Kimbo was limping and was clearly in pain. He survived that. I think it was like a choke in the first round, and he just held on. And then the second round, same thing happened, and Matroni was on top and then TKO'd him. Sad way to see Kimbo go out like that. Apparently he's been cut from the UFC, which is a shame. And I'm sure some people can argue, well, maybe they should have kept him for one more fight, considering he's quite a relevant draw, and he's got quite a big name. And considering Vanderlei Silva had lost quite a few fights and was still kept around, I guess there's this argument. So I don't know, but he's apparently definitely been cut from the UFC. The next fight I want to talk about was the Josh Koscheck and Paul Daley fight. Now this was the fight that had a lot of talk coming into it, and now has a lot of talk coming out of it, and had a lot of implications depending on who won the fight, because the winner of the fight was going to be on the Ultimate Fighter as the coach, opposing George St. Pierre with the title fight later this year. So it was quite a big fight. Anyways, there was a lot of trash talk, really stemming from Josh Koscheck and Paul Daley, and I think really what started it was what Koscheck said about Dan Hardy last year. So Paul Daley, being a teammate of Dan Hardy, probably took offence to that. Then they signed that fight, and the talk began with Daley posting pictures on the internet and encouraging people to Photoshop it, and then all the talk on the countdown, which is just the usual stuff. And then the weigh-in, it looked a bit intense there. Anyways, the fight kind of went exactly how I expected. Koscheck doesn't want to get hit, obviously, and why should he? He's going to do what he can to win the fight, exploit Daley's weaknesses, take him down, keep him there, smother him, beat him on the ground. Daley did well to not get taken down with ease, but he still got taken down. He clearly worked on that aspect of his game, but against an NCAA wrestler, I mean, eventually you're going to get taken down. I could see that there was like a knee, but I don't think it really touched him. I think there was definitely some kind of eye gouging on, because Koscheck's eye did look all filled up with pus and fluid. I could hear some comments from Koscheck as he had Daley on the ground. He was saying stuff to him. I could kind of hear what he was saying during the first and second rounds. And I think he made some kind of comment like, welcome to the wonderful world of UFC, bitch, or something like that. If you watch the second round, it was kind of a bit blurry, so I'm not too sure. And then, of course, as the fight finished, the thing that everyone is talking about happened. The horn goes, the fight's over, Koscheck goes back to his corner, Daley moves out of the way of the referee, turns Koscheck around and hits him in the face, which was uncalled for, but I can understand it was probably in the heat of the moment because of what Koscheck probably was saying to him during their time on the ground. He didn't need to do that, and that was not a smart move. And to be honest, Paul Daley has probably cost himself a lot of money, because he's likely going to get fined anyways, but now he's lost his job with the UFC because Dana White has now come out and said, I'm not having that. I don't want that happening in my company. We don't stand for that. He's out. He's not coming back. I don't care if he does this, this, and this. He's not coming back. And that's a real shame because that has now cost Paul Daley hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of, pounds and money, being kind of reckless in the end. And I can imagine, considering the UFC really want to get New York and they're campaigning hard to get New York, maybe they feel that something like Daley hitting someone after a fight is over could be used against them and will work against them when they're trying to get New York, because they'll say, well, look what happens. We don't want this happening within the UFC. And it's a real shame for Paul Daley because he's a talented fighter, definitely a top welterweight. And you think about all the fights he's had, all the travelling and all the paying of dues. He finally makes it to the UFC, and is finally at a point where he's in the mix, for a title fight and big fights, and the opportunity to make real good money and real, cement his status as a welterweight, and in a way kind of sets himself back. I mean, he's got a means to come back from, but it's going to be real hard. It's not like he got busted for steroids or some stupid shit like Josh Barnett, but he's got a lot, he's got an uphill battle now to kind of get himself back there. And from all accounts, it looks like it's going to be hard to get him in the UFC. I'd like to know what everyone thought on that, because it seems like the general consensus is that he shouldn't have done that. Moving right on to the main event, Shogun and Lyoto Machida, the big rematch from last year's fight in October. A lot of controversy about that. A lot of people felt that Shogun won that fight. I personally felt Shogun won some of those rounds, and then when I watched it again with the sound off, I wasn't too sure, and then when I watched it again, it was 50-50. Definitely close enough for there to be a rematch. The lead into it was a lot of people saying they felt Shogun was going to win, and a lot of those people were right, because Shogun did win. He looked really aggressive out there. Machida, I think, got a takedown or two in the early part of that first round, and then Shogun just like an overhand right, and it kind of got him in the temple, and then Machida went down and then dish finished him. I was impressed. Because a lot of people never thought that Machida would get stopped. I think people go crazy when guys go on beating streaks, and I think I'm not saying that Machida's not a talented fighter, but people go crazy when guys go on beating streaks to the point where they just think they're invincible. And again, Shogun has now exposed this chink in Machida's armor and beaten him. And now he's the world champion at 205, and it's an incredible story actually when you think about it. Shogun's had so many injuries and so many setbacks and so many criticisms, judging on his early UFC performances, considering people were like, well, he wasn't the Shogun that was in Pride, that won the Grand Prix tournament. Oh, we don't think he's ever going to come back. To come back from all that adversity and now to win a title, that's a hell of a story for Shogun, and he was absolutely beaming after the fight. It looks like he's going to probably fight the winner of the Evans and Jackson fight, which will be great. Because potentially if Jackson wins, you have that rematch back from when they fought in Pride, and Shogun just ripped his ribs apart with those kicks. So that will be an interesting prospect, or possibly fighting KOTOR, which could happen. You never know. I don't know. Other than that, there's not much else to say really. It was a good night of fights. We've got Franklin and Liddell next, and then Carwin and Lesnar. I'm probably going to be doing videos on those two fights soon. Oh, other than that, I don't think Machida's done. I just want to stress that before I end this video. He's got a means to come back from. I mean, this happened with George St. Pierre, when George lost to Matt Hughes the first time, and when he lost to Matt Serra. Some people questioned whether or not he was done. Machida is more than capable enough of getting himself back into the mix, and possibly getting another title fight later down the line. I don't know who will fight next. Maybe he might even fight KOTOR next, or probably Little Nog, as he is now without an opponent because Griffin had to withdraw from the fight. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think, and I'll be back probably in a few days. I'm out. Take care.